G'day everyone, this is Sean from Hammersim. I'm bringing to you today a cracker of a match. It's 2,500 points, my vampire counts against my mate Costa's Warriors of Chaos, and this is as intense a match as I've ever played, so stick around and see what happens. We'll start off by going through the terrain. We have an Anvil of Vol, which gives magical and flaming attacks for any unit that's within a certain distance to it. We got a standard fence and a watchtower next to that. We have a Blessed Bulwark north of that. A forest, a mystery forest, but it ended up being a standard forest when we deployed. A haunted mansion, which comes into play very much in the game. A set of runes, a standard building, and then a Earthblood Mire. And this is deployment. First up, there is 34 Chaos Warriors of Khorne. They're also having that unit one Exalted Hero of Khorne. Just behind them, we got a Chimera. Right next to that is a Hell Cannon. Next to the Hell Cannon is his big hitting unit of 4 Skullcrushers, full command. They're joined by a Chaos Lord who's also on a Juggernaut, as well as an Exalted Hero, again on a Juggernaut. The Exalted Hero is a BSB. His Chaos Lord has a myriad of magical items on it, including the Sword of Anti-Heroes. I find this out by surprise in a few turns, so I'll watch out for that. And to the right of them is 4 Chaos Ogres full command. As for vampire counts, I vanguarded up my Direwolves there. Direwolf Unit 1 is slightly back away from his Chaos Warriors because I don't want him to get the charge on me. My Hex Wraith has also vanguarded from, they were originally just to the right of my Blood Knight unit, but now they vanguarded up as well. Behind them is a couple of Spirit Hosts, one on each flank of my infantry. Now I'm wanting to use these Spirit Hosts as kind of either redirectors for charges or just to hassle units that don't have magical weapons. And then in between them I have 4 units of very big blocks of zombies. 2, 3, and 4 have 40 zombies each, and zombie unit number 1 has 35. The majority of my points, however, are inside this Blood Knight unit. I'll give you a closer up view. I have 9 Blood Knights, a Vampire Lord in the top left corner, a Vampire Hero BSB, and a White King. Now, there's a particular reason why I've set this unit up exactly as such. The Vampire Lord is a Blender Lord, so he's got always strike first, Red Fury, which for every wound he deals he gets another attack. He's also got the other Trickster's Shard, which makes opponents re-roll successful ward saves. And he's got a Sword of Battle, which gives him 2 extra attacks. This is actually a mistake on my part. I'll explain later in the game. And then on top of that, he has Talisman of Preservation, which gives him 4+ ward save. So right now he's running a 2+ armor and then a 4+ ward. Now next to him is what I would like to call his bodyguard. The Vampire BSB has got Night Shroud armor, which any models within base contact with him loses all strength bonuses from their magical or normal weapons, as well as have the Always Strike Last ability. The Vampire BSB is also running a Aura of Dark Majesty, so -1 to leadership to everyone within 6 inches, enemies that is. And then he's also running Beguile, so at the beginning of close combat round, a model in base contact has to do a leadership test at -3, so with a Aura of Dark Majesty it will be actually at -4, and if they fail that leadership test they have to re-roll all successful hits in combat. Now the reason why I have the Vampire Lord right in that corner there as opposed to in the middle is if I get into combat with something I will challenge, and forcing the model to challenge me in that corner and hopefully getting base contact with my Vampire BSB, who will confer all of these negative magical abilities, and hopefully my Lord will win the challenge. So as an example, I've just drawn things in blue there. The model that's got the star in it would be in challenge with my Lord, and the other 2 models that can potentially attack my Vampire BSB are also affected by his negative magical abilities, most likely the Night Shroud. On top of that, my White King inside that unit is also running a Obsidian Amulet, which gives him magic resistance. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Blood Knight unit running the Flag of the Bloodkeep, it gets 4+ ward save against all ranged attacks, which I think includes magic, and that means that together with the magic resistance 2 from the Obsidian Amulet, this unit should have a 2+ ward save against magic. Unfortunately for me, I didn't know my mate was going to be running his Khorne army today, so there was not going to be any magic thrown towards me, but he does have a Hell Cannon, so the 4+ ward save is still going to be useful. And onwards to the game. I was lucky enough to win turn 1, which I really needed because I feel that he's probably got a good army to beat what I've got right now. So I move up all of my cavalry except for Direwolf unit number 1, and again I didn't move them up because I don't want his Chaos Warriors to get the charge off on me. And I've just drawn these Chaos Warrior units line of sight in transparent red there, so you can see why I moved my Direwolf, Hexwraith and Blood Knights up as I did. All my infantry just moves up as much as they physically can, but being that they're more than 12 inches away from my general, they're going to be very slow indeed. During my magic phase, oh, I forgot, my Vampire Lord is level 3 and my Vampire BSB is level 2 running the Law of Death. So I tried to cast a Van Hells on my Hexwraiths because I really need them to get behind the unit of Chaos Warriors there and start doing their magical damage. However, I rolled 5 dice on Winds of Magic. I throw all 5 dice at this magical spell and I roll 4 ones and don't get the spell off, so they're stuck there, but it's not too bad because hopefully I'll get this off next turn. Just another thing, I've indicated with a yellow circle there the range of the Haunted Mansion. Now if you don't know what it does, it is a 6-inch reach from the mansion that if you have a unit that is within that range during the shooting phase, you cop D6 strength 1 hits with no armor save. So this actually becomes vitally important late in the game. You'll see why. During my opponent's first turn, he wheels his Chaos Warriors around to face my cavalry. He also moves his general as well as the BSB out of the Skullcrusher unit and puts them into the warriors as well. And not only that, but the Skullcrushers also turn around to face me, and his Chimera or Chimera, however you pronounce it, moves back behind his lines. I think the idea is he didn't want my Hexwraiths to run through those Chaos Warriors and end up on the other side. Not to mention his Hell Cannon's also there, just in case he needs to get into hand in hand with it. He moves his Chaos Ogres up directly towards my infantry as well, but I'm not too worried. The Chaos Ogres are not running magical weapons of any type, so my Spirit Host there should be able to hold it up for at least a few turns. Now you see there that the Skullcrushers of Khorne has moved within range of the Haunted Mansion, so yeah, we'll see what happens there. He doesn't have a magic phase, being that he's Khorne. You gotta love Khorne. No magic. Normally wouldn't even get a shooting phase, but he's brought the Hell Cannon this time. So he does fire a round off at me. It scatters wide, so not worried about that too much. Yeah, that's the end of his turn. Okay, this is my turn too. Look, I know there's a lot of arrows pointing every which direction, so let's just focus on the red ones first, because they're the charges. You can see there, I declared 2 charges against his Skullcrushers, one with zombie unit number 3 and another one with the unit number 1. Now, I felt this was vitally important because I don't think I can kill him with my zombies, but I need to hold him up because if those Skullcrushers charge any of my units, they're just going to wreak havoc. But if I can hold him up within that circle of the Haunted Mansion, hopefully the no armor save allowed, even though their strength 1 attacks, would do some damage to him. I failed the charge with unit number 1, so they only shuffle forward I think 3 inches or something. Unit number 3 does make the charge, however, so that's really good for me. I also charge his Chaos Ogres with my Spirit Host. Now they should be able to hold those ogres up for a few turns at least. They don't have magical weapons. They do have a banner, which means if I don't score at least 2 wounds in this case because he's also got a musician. I end up losing combat by 1, but I feel that should be okay. A 45-point unit holding up all of those ogres is good by my books. On the other side of the battlefield, I've moved my direwolves so that they're very close range to the hell cannon now. The hex wraiths are directly behind them. I move my direwolf unit number 1 to directly in front of his chaos knights, and the reason why I do that is it forces him to have to charge that unit. He can't actually move around him because his frontage is so wide. I've also put the spirit host directly behind the direwolf unit there, so that if the chaos warriors do charge through, they're most likely gonna, well, they're definitely gonna kill that direwolf unit straight away, and they'll run into the spirit host, which will slow them down, which means that my now refaced blood knights will be able to charge them in the flank. Well, that was the plan at least. So during my magic phase, I again tried to get the Van Hells off on my hex wraiths, trying to get them to move through any other units there, and I again failed to cast the spell. So not great magic phases for me so far. During the close combat phase, he only has 1 Skullcrusher in base contact with my zombies, but even then he wins combat easily with a stomp, with all the attacks and the strength, and my zombies just suck. With his 1+ armor save, I can't do any wounds to him. In the next combat over against the Chaos Ogres, the Spirit Hosts I think do a wound, but I still lose combat due to his musician. Actually no, I think I drew combat because I charged this round, so I did 1 wound. He can't do anything to me because I'm ethereal, and that was it for turn 2 vampires. Now, in turn 2 Warriors of Chaos, my opponent does something strange here. I had expected him to charge with his Chaos Warrior unit into those direwolves, but instead he elects to charge out of there with his Lord. Which I thought, okay, that's gonna make it easy for me to kill him, I guess. The other charge that was declared was the Chimera, however you pronounce it, into my direwolves, and during the shooting phase, he again targets my Black Knights with the Hell Cannon. This time he lands a hit directly in the center of that unit, but between my 2+ armor as well as the 4+ ward, he only manages to kill 1 of the Blood Knights. During close combat, the Chimera smashes the direwolves and pops them completely due to combat resolution, and ends up overrunning into my hex wraiths. In the second combat there, he's a lord, smashes all of my direwolves, and again due to combat resolution, blows right past them and ends up overrunning into the spirit host. Next combat over, the Skullcrushers again, I think I didn't draw it properly there, but they turn around to face the zombie unit after my turn, close combat phase. So now it's got 4 models in contact, and they obliterate more than half that zombie unit number 3. And again, in the combat phase over, nothing much happens. I think I deal a wound, but I lose the combat by 1, and the struggle goes on in that corner. So this is how the turn ended after we worked out all the overruns. You can see the Chimera is now against the Hex Raids, and his Lord has got stuck against the Spirit Host. So in my turn 3, I obviously declare my charges. It was a flank charge from my Blood Knights against his Lord, and then I really need my zombie units to get in contact with the combat with the Skullcrushers, so I charge unit number 4 into the Skullcrushers as well. I forgot to mention, during the past 2 turns for his Skullcrushers, being that they're inside that yellow circle, he's actually taken, I think, a wound or 2 from the house there, the Haunted Mansion. So it was quite funny to see. I've got 60-70 zombies, can't even do a single wound to him, but a Haunted Mansion is doing all the dirty work, so hopefully I can keep him there for a little bit longer. During my magic phase, as I said, my vampire BSB is running the Law of Death, so I elect to cast the signature spell at his exalted BSB. Now, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's the first time I've played Law of Death, but it says in the signature spell that we both take a leadership, we both roll a d6 and then add our unmodified leadership to this value. Now, as far as I can understand it, because I'm in a unit with my Lord, I use my Lord's leadership of 10, and my opponent's exalted hero, he's only got a leadership of 8, so it's 10 versus 8. He's got 3 wounds, which means that on this d6, if I can roll 1 higher than my mate, he ends up, the BSB ends up dying. However, I don't get to do that. I think I roll 1 to my opponent's 2, and he only suffers a single wound. Onwards to combat. The Chimera can't do anything against my Hex Rays because they're ethereal, and I do enough wounds to him that he loses combat and has to run away. I end up chasing him off the board. In the next combat over, the Skullcrushers obliterate unit number 3. Yeah, there was no hope in hell for them, and he reforms to face unit number 4. In the next combat over from that, again, Spirit Hosts don't really do much against his Chaos Ogres. I think I'll lose combat by 1, but they're holding in there. They probably got 1 wound left, but if my memory serves me correctly. But the most important close combat phase is this one here, which I'll zoom in for. I declare a challenge with my Vampire Lord. He has no choice but to accept because he's Chaos. Now, little did I know, he had the Sword of Anti-Heroes on this Lord, and I've got 3 characters in base contact with him. So he's now running, I think, 9 attacks because he's Frenzied and Strength 8. Holy shit. Luckily for me, my Bodyguard BSB reduces his Strength bonus, so he's only Strength 5, and I say only in scary quotes there. 9 attacks at Strength 5 is still not something to be laughing at, I guess. So during the challenge, now this is where my big mistake was. I had played a mate Dark Elf army a few days in advance, and I kind of copy and pasted some of the characters over, and I had forgotten to take out the Sword of Battle from my Vampire Lord to replace it with the Ogre Blade. Now, as everyone knows, Sword of Battle is great against elves because they're toughness 3. I really needed the Ogre Blade for Chaos Warriors because I need the extra strength, so I wasn't even able to wound his Chaos Lord because even though I had 7 attacks, he's got a 2+ or 1+ armor save, and with a strength 5, yeah, he just wasn't going through, and yeah, I take 1 wound in return, but I still end up winning combat though, because I had the charge. I've got a banner, a BSB, as well as a rank. I've also got the negative to leadership from my vampire's Dark Aura, so he ends up losing the combat by 3, but he has to make a leadership at -4. Now he fails that leadership roll, so I'm thinking, oh, this is great, I should be able to run him down. However, his BSB was in range. On the second roll, he got a very low roll and passed the leadership. So I think my opponent's actually done something, while risky, very clever here. He's put his Lord out in the open and used them as bait, and I certainly took it hook, line and sinker, and I charged in with my Blood Knights thinking, oh, I'm going to smash a Chaos Lord, but with the amount of armor saves that thing's got and all the attacks from the Sword of Heroes, I was actually incredibly lucky that my Vampire Lord didn't die in that first round of combat, and because I'm in a challenge with him, none of my other models get to attack, so all the Lances I bought for my Blood Knights, they're useless, and my White King with a Killing Blow is just stuck there doing nothing, and my Vampire Hero, while he's great by protecting my Lord, is also wasted. So yeah, I'm quite surprised at how that one Lord has now held up a huge unit of Blood Knights. It's incredible. And this is how the board looked like at the end of my turn 3. I am in a fair bit of trouble here. My Blood Knights no longer have the charge. My Vampire Lord's stuck in a challenge against the Chaos Lord that I can't wound because stupid me, I forgot to take the right weapon. Rather than telling my opponent that I was gonna, switch weapons, then I bought the wrong thing. I thought I'd just play it as it was written on the sheet. It's only fair, even though the point cost is exactly the same. But look, now I'm going to get charged by Chaos Warriors with a BSB as well. I'm just got my fingers crossed that I'll survive the next round. So as expected, my opponent charges in his turn 3 with the Chaos Warriors. His Hell Cannon ends up failing leadership, so they don't fire this turn. Not that it matters anyway, because most of the important units are in hand-to-hand. In the close combat that is to the right of screen, the Spirit Hosts, I think, end up dying from combat resolution this turn, and I might have killed one Ogre though. But in the hand-to-hand combat that matters, the challenge goes on. I think my opponent actually fluffs his rose in this turn, and he doesn't wound my Vampire Lord, so I breathe a huge sigh of relief. And luckily for me, with my always strike first and re-rose to hit because of the always strike first, I end up doing 1 damage through to his Chaos Lord. It's not easy to do. The way the units have lined up there was actually not a lot that could attack this turn. My Vampire BSB could attack his Exalted Champion or Exalted Hero, which I think I forgot to draw on that thing, but it's the one that's right in front of my Vampire Lord, and he swings back at me but doesn't wound me, so I'm up by a couple of wounds in this combat. But because he got the charge, he's got the extra rank, we actually broke evens on combat because we both had musicians as well, so neither of us lost frenzy, which is quite important. In the combat between the zombie unit number 4 against the Skullcrushers, you will notice that he's actually lost the model there, and that wasn't even due to the zombies at all. That was just purely because of the Haunted Mansion pummeling that unit without armor saves. My zombies just can't beat that 1+ armor save at all. And my opponent very smartly at the end of the turn reforms his Chaos Warriors so that they are 5 wide, because the extra rank bonuses are really going to hurt me due to Crumble. I'm really on the back foot in this game, I think. My Lord was lucky enough to survive that round of combat against his Chaos Lord, who still is running 8 attacks, so yeah, I'm counting myself lucky that I've lasted this long. During my turn 4, I declared 2 charges, both with zombie units. The Skullcrushers has to be held there, because if they can get in on the action against my Blood Knights, it's game over. Zombie unit number 2 charges the Chaos Ogres, who have now demolished the Spirit Host due to combat resolution, and my Hex Wraiths come back on the board. I've lined them up that way so that I can possibly charge the rear of the Chaos Warriors next turn. So up to now, I haven't been having the greatest of magic phases. I got a couple of vampiric spells off, which have healed my Vampire Lord back up to full with a lore attribute. So I really need this magic phase to go off strong for me to have any chance. So I decide to throw all my eggs in one basket. I think I ended up with 6 dice. I throw all 6 dice at a purple sun that my vampire hero has. It's the one where my opponent has to pass an initiative test from this magical vortex, and anyone that fails the initiative gets sucked into the void, no saves of any kind. And I directed like this throughout his units, so he should clip his Exalted Hero, his Chaos Lord, and as many of those infantry troops as I can. I end up getting the spell off really well. I think I rolled a lot of 5s, no double 6s, so no miscast. My opponent wasn't able to dispel it with the 4 dice that he had. So now my opponent rolls all of the initiative tests. The first dice he rolls was for his Chaos Lord, and guess what? He rolls a 6 and fails the test. He gets sucked into the void with no saves of any kind. I can't believe how lucky I was for that phase, because I was sure that my Vampire Lord would have died eventually against his Chaos Lord, because I just could not wound him, and this could potentially save my game. A few of the other models also failed their leadership test, but his exalted hero passes it. So, but the damage has been done. I've killed his Chaos Lord, and yeah, my opponent was spewing because he was inside the challenge, so he thought he was going to be safe. And I wouldn't mind if someone could comment if this was legit or not, but I think even inside the challenge, you know, you're still going to cop magical effects such as the Purple Sun, right? Anyway, comment below. And now during close combat phase, again, because of the misalignment of our units, not much could attack, I think. I didn't quite indicate that properly on the graphic there, but my Vampire Lord does a few wounds to his Chaos Warriors, and the Vampire also does a few wounds as well, and I end up winning combat, and I reform. On the other side, right next to them in the combat with the zombies, his Skullcrushers just smash. Yes, look at the skulls on that thing. Yeah, he just smashes that zombie unit number 4, and the combat resolution carries over and annihilates half of zombie unit number 1. So yeah, those Skullcrushers are definitely something to be watching out for. And on the other side of the map, the Chaos Ogres annihilate about a third, if not a little bit more, of the of the zombie unit number 2. But that's okay. I'm just there to hopefully hold them up for another turn. Now in Chaos turn 4, the Hell Cannon actually lost his leadership, which was probably the best thing that could happen because he ends up charging directly into the side of my Hex Wraith, which I was not prepared for at all there. And because the Hell Cannon's got magical demon attacks, it actually could hurt my Hex Wraith, so I'm in big trouble up there. In the close combat, in the hand-to-hand, he issues a challenge with his BSB on the Juggernaut. I accept with my White King, so I trust my White King will survive because toughness 5, 3 wounds, and with a great weapon, so I think he'll be okay. My Vampire Lord attacks the unit and does a fair few wounds, as well as all my Blood Knights, so I ended up doing a fair few wounds. I don't think I've drawn it correctly. My Vampire Lord actually moved over to be able to attack the unit there, but that's how it ended. I end up winning combat comfortably, but because he's got the extra ranks there, he's got 2 chances at stubborn unmodified leadership, and he passes that with ease. On the other side, the Skullcrushers completely annihilate the final zombie unit against him, so I really need to do something about that next turn, otherwise I'm going to get charged by them, so it's going to be scary. So in my turn, I do exactly that. I do something about the Skullcrushers. I use my Spirit Host there, and I march them right in front of the Skullcrushers and align them that way so that when they do hit my Spirit Host and completely kill them, they're going to overrun into the mansion. And by this time, I think the mansion's dealt another wound or 2 to the Skullcrushers. So yeah, it's doing all the hard work for me. I'm just doing everything possible to hold them against that mansion. And in the close combat phase, I end up again doing a huge amount of wounds with my Vampire Lord and my Vampire against the unit. My White King actually kills his BSB, which is huge in the context of the game as well. So now he doesn't have double chances at leadership. Not only that, by killing the BSB where he is, I've reduced his ranks to equal to mine, and now he doesn't get stubborn leadership. And he couldn't really wound my Blood Knights very much, which is why I love this unit so much. 2+ armor save, there's vampires, so toughness 4, and with my vampire BSB at the front, minusing everyone's strength that's in base contact, it negated a lot of his halberd attacks, so his front rank basically were attacking with no strength modifier, and the rear support attacks did have the +1 to strength with the halberds, but yeah, he just didn't have the number of attacks, and because he lost frenzy last turn, it's pretty ineffectual what he was doing against me now. I think the difference in combat resolution at the end of this combat was so large that he needed insane courage to stay, and because I killed his BSB, he didn't even have 2 chances at that. He ends up fleeing. I think he only rose 6 inches or so. I easily catch him with the cavalry because I'm rolling 3d6. On the other side of the board, the Chaos Ogres do a good job on the zombies, but I've managed to hold them for another turn, which is great for me. In Vampire Counts turn 6, I end up charging the Skullcrushers. Now we worked out they actually ended up being a flank charge, not a rear charge. So yeah, I get my charge easily in on there. And during the magic phase, I again cast Purple Sun from my Vampire BSB. Now I aimed it such that it should go through all of the Skullcrushers, and then if I rolled well enough, they should hit the Chaos Ogres. And I actually ended up rolling quite well on the artillery dice. The template ends up hitting the Chaos Ogres as well, and 2 of the Ogres fail their saves and get sucked into the void. The Skullcrushers had no issues though. During close combat, my Vampire Lord accepts the challenge against his champion. He ends up doing 6 wounds or 5 wounds, something high, and my opponent rolls all of his armor saves. That was quite a nice roll, but it doesn't help him. My Vampire and White King end up killing, doing quite a few wounds to the rest of the Skullcrushers, and he ends up losing combat. However, he does outrun my chase, and this is the end of the game. So this is how the game looked at the end of the game. I don't think he could rally because he was under a certain strength, but it didn't matter anyway because I don't get to claim the points, which I think is a silly rule, by the way. I feel that if a unit's fleeing at the end of the game, they should be counted towards victory points, but you know, we've got to play by the rules. And here's a breakdown of the victory points. As you can see, my opponent scored 1100 points. I scored just under 2200 points, so I was within a cat's whisker of claiming a solid victory there, or however you call it, one of the strong victories. I really thought that the game was much closer than what the points indicated, and I'll talk about that in my afterthoughts. So here are my thoughts after the game. This was the first time I ever fielded death magic on a vampire. I think I might have used it maybe once on a necromancer before, but it never really paid off. This time it paid off in a huge way. I don't think I would have been anywhere near close to winning this game had my opponent didn't fail his initiative check with his general, because the challenge was going really badly for me, and his warriors had just charged me against the Blood Knights. So yeah, it really saved my bacon this time. And you know, together with the fact that my opponent was just extremely unlucky, like effectively he lost the game on 1 dice roll. I felt that he actually done quite well in that side of the board to force my lord into the challenge. I had a false sense of security there with my vampire bodyguard, and I think that law of statistics would have said that his lord should have won the challenge in a couple of turns anyway. And as everyone knows, when a vampire general goes down, all things go badly for the vampire army. So I feel my opponent was really unlucky there, the way his general ended up dying. Having said that, I also thought my opponent made a fairly large mistake towards the early part of the game. Now this is a screenshot of his turn 1. Now you'll remember that during deployment he had both his Chaos Lord and the Exalted Hero inside the Skullcrusher unit. So he had 6 strong unit of juggernauts basically, with 2 characters riding them. And rather than turning them to face my Blood Knights and Direwolves, I personally would have just charged them straight at zombie unit number 3. I think they are one of the few units in this game that potentially can blow up a zombie unit inside of a turn, even one as big as what I fielded there, because with the number of stomps and the number of attacks he would have had with his Lord and his BSB at the front, and he would have easily killed 20 to 25 of my zombies, I think, in that charge. And with the combat resolution, I reckon he would have just blown right past them and got behind me. Anyway, that's what I thought. But you know, if anyone's got a disagreement or have a better suggestion of how he could have used the Skullcrushers, please comment below. But I think once he's turned around there and allowed me to charge him on the flank with a zombie unit, and you know, quite literally he didn't get a charge off until turn 5 with his Skullcrushers, and even then it was just at a pissy unit of spirit host. So I managed to charge him with 3 units of zombies, and what killed that Skullcrusher unit wasn't even those zombies. It was literally just the haunted mansion rolling d6 for strength 1 hits, and those hits had no armor save, so eventually it wore him down. The other thing I think really affected the results was my Vampire BSB, or as I would like to call him, the Vampire Bodyguard. The combination of the Night Shroud, the Beguile, and the Aura of Dark Majesty, I think is just great. Especially the fact that I don't actually need all of those magical items or vampiric powers on my Lord for him to benefit from the effects. I think is just huge, because the sort of anti-heroes that my opponent had on the Lord, on the Chaos Lord, he would have been swinging 9 attacks at me with strength 8, and that, that's a death sentence to any hero. It doesn't matter who you are. Even with the ward saves, you're not going to save that sort of the firepower of that magnitude, but because my vampire BSB was next to him, at least it reduced the strength to strength 5. And then I actually messed up during the game. I didn't every turn force his Chaos Lord or something in base contact to roll the Beguile check, but I did it often enough that when he was rolling to hit against my Vampire Lord, he had to re-roll all of his successes to hit. So that's just a great strategy, I think. And it's not my strategy. I think I saw it on some forum somewhere. I can't remember where. So I'm not claiming credit for it, but it's just really good to have your Vampire Lord protected by this combination. And the last thought on the game is I really need to proofread my army list. As I said to you, I used a old army list that I played against Dark Elves with and copy and pasted the heroes and lords sort of from there. So I didn't realize that I hadn't switched out my Sword of Battle with an Ogre Blade, because they were the same points cost. So when I looked at my points cost, I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that's okay. But as soon as I got into combat with a Chaos Lord, I was looking at my character sheet and I thought, why do I only have strength 5? I should have strength 7. And I looked over at my attacks and I suddenly realized, hang on, I've taken the wrong magic item. But rather than telling my opponent that I was going to switch it out or lie for my opponent, I just told him, look, I'm just going to play it as it is on my character sheet. Even though they're the same points cost, I think I play it as it's written. But it didn't end up killing my Vampire Lord at the end of the day, so I was quite lucky in that respect. But yeah, I do need to proofread the damn thing. Anyway, I'm just happy to get away with a win. I thought I was quite fortunate to do so, and I thoroughly don't think the scoreline reflected how close the game was all throughout. It was just lucky that his Lord ended up dying, and I cleaned up the board with my big unit of Blood Knights. So, what did you guys think of the game? Did we play the rules correctly? And what would you have done different if you were me or my opponent? I appreciate any sort of feedback that you can give, and if you like my video, please click the like button, or better yet, subscribe. And until next time, I'm Sean from Hammersim. Thank you for watching.